Hello, this is Coach Wilson, and this is Chapter 5, Section 2. Today we're going to be talking about how Congress is organized. All right. So the 20th Amendment, which was passed in 1933, states the Congress shall assemble at least once in every year, and such meeting shall begin at noon on the third day of January, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Section 3 says if at the time fixed for the beginning of the term of the president-elect shall have died, and then so on. Okay. For the most part, basically, what you need to know is that the 20th Amendment requires Congress to start on January 3rd on odd numbered years and last for 2 years. The first Congress was from 1789 to 1790, then 1791 to 1792, okay, and then the 116th Congress, 2019 to 2020, okay. So, Congress always begins on January 3rd on odd numbered years and lasts for 2 years. Okay, so that is the point of the amendment. Now, elections for these representatives and senators take place every 2 years, and only a third of all senators are actually up for re-election every 2 years. Remember, their terms last for 6 years, unlike House members who their term only lasts for 2. So they have to be elected every 2 years. They also have what we call special sessions of Congress, okay, and this is where Congress has adjourned, but the president has called them back into session. One such example was during Pearl Harbor when Hawaii was attacked. Roosevelt called a special session of Congress so that he could declare war on Japan. Now, you also have what we call joint sessions, and this is where both houses of Congress meet together. And a great example of that is the President's State of the Union address, where they come together and they talk about what's been going on in country, talk about the future for the next couple years. If it's the first State of the Union, basically just talk about the state of the union. Okay, so where the country is at. But getting back to my point, the Senate and the House come together. Right, and then we have the senior senator, and this is just the senator who has been there the longest. All right, so they are considered the senior senator of our state. In this case, Richard Burr would be ours, and then for our junior senator, it would be Thom Tillis. I had to think there for a second. Now, the Senate organization is led by the vice president. Okay, and if the vice president is not able to attend meetings for the Senate, then it is led by the president pro tempore, which is the president or acting president of the meeting, and that is selected by the senators there. And then you have the majority and minority floor leaders. Generally, these floor leaders are going to lead discussions on various bills that are trying to be passed, as well as trying to promote various things for their party. You also have the majority and minority whips, and these people try to basically persuade members to vote for party-sponsored legislation. All right, so essentially their job is to go around and try to convince other groups from their party, as well as those in other parties, what they should vote for. There are also 16 different standing committees. Okay, and your textbook talked a lot about various committees, and we're going to talk about those briefly. The Senate has 16 standing committees versus the House has 19, and each committee is responsible for a specific congressional business. For example, in the House of Representatives, the Ways and Means Committee handles all matters concerning taxes, and in the Senate, bills related to taxes are handled by the Finance Committee. All right, so just an example of two committees there that operate in Congress. Okay, before Congress will actually consider a bill, it is actually studied carefully by an appropriate standing committee in each house, and the committee will hold hearings to gather information on the positives and negatives of proposed legislation. Okay, so legislation doesn't just get introduced and then passed, etc. There's a lot of committees that have to look over it. Now, in the House of Representatives, they have the Speaker of the House, which is the most powerful officer in Congress. Okay, generally, the Speaker of the House is going to be elected by the majority party. Okay, and I do want to give you one thing about that, and want to be sure but your text does say that the Speaker of the House is always kind of the senior member, or generally the senior member of the party, one who has been there the longest. The big thing that you need to understand about the Speaker of the House is that they have a lot of influence and kind of power over what's said and what happens at these meetings and debates over legislation. They're paid a little bit more than the other representatives, but they influence the order of business in the House. Okay, they are responsible for making sure that no representative speaks until called on or recognized by the Speaker. Okay, so they essentially are kind of like the judge of these meetings. All right, you have the majority and minority whips in the House of Representatives as well, the same as in the Senate. They have 20 standing committees versus your text said 19, but it is 20. I had to check that a second ago, but you do have 20 standing committees in the House of Representatives, and remember those committees are just responsible for various tasks in the House and in the Senate. Okay. All right, guys, that's all we have for today. Please make sure you're keeping up with your notes and your vocabulary. And if you have any questions, please let me know. If not, I'll talk to you soon.